Welcome to EdFile. I'm Ayola Kasim. Mobile phones have changed our lives and computers have changed our history. Technology has changed the way we live and we are surrounded by electronics in our private and working lives. The fact is, not many bother about where all this ends up, but you should. When you look at a cell phone or computer, it doesn't seem to be dangerous. Typically, only the outer casing is visible, but it's what is inside that poses the threats to the environment, the people, and animals. Electronic products are jam-packed with heavy metals, semi-metals, and various chemical compounds that can leak into soil and become hazardous. The risk, the benefits, and the way forward are some of the areas we'll be focusing on today on EdFile. Do stay with us. Adopting information technology may be desirable, but there is an ugly side to it, which has to do with hazards arising in e-waste. Between 20 and 50 million tons of e-waste are generated globally, and it has been predicted that by 2016, developing countries would produce twice the amount of e-waste produced in developed countries. Though Nigeria does not manufacture information technology consumables, large quantities are being imported into the country on a daily basis. With the importation of such goods, it is only natural that when their useful life expires, they would become waste or more appropriately e-waste. Currently, Nigeria has a backlog of e-waste that are posing a lot of challenges to the environment and human health. It is a thing of concern that a lot of Nigerians are not aware of hazards associated with e-waste. It is not uncommon to find young men rummaging through waste heaps containing all sorts of wastes. The turnover rates of waste from electronic gadgets and the consequential health hazard effect on human life and the environment caused, especially on the soil, cannot be overemphasized.
In a realistic way, consider the population of Nigeria. Consider the number of electronics and gadgets that are about. Consider the number of people who carry 3-4 mobile phones, and just consider the turnaround period from some of these implements. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you have new brands, new types coming up, and people keep changing. What happens with what is abandoned?
The answer to that question is what brought together stakeholders in the industry in a workshop organized by the National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, and other partners at the workshop in Lagos. The focus is the implementation of extended producer responsibility legislation for electronic waste and the need to fast-track e-waste recycling process in Nigeria.
The last November meeting.
Last November, the stakeholders had met and decided to develop an industry extended producers responsibility implementation plan to establish the producer responsibility organization entity and the establishment of registry advisory body that will be occupied by stakeholders. They also decided that a high-level advocacy facility support of policymakers should be established. Released statistics has shown that approximately 100,000 tons of e-waste is illegally brought into Nigeria every year through Lagos and other ports in the country. An e-waste country assessment for Nigeria published in 2012 further identified that about 1.1 million tons of e-waste are generated annually, which is far more than the combined e-waste volume generated by most other countries in the ECOWAS region. There is also an absence of infrastructure for appropriate e-waste management and absence of any framework for end-of-life products take-back.
There are items that before this time have been used and reused and repaired, they've all gone bad. And so we'll have them heaped up in a container somewhere, well secure, so that we know the effects of letting that thing go, without being properly disposed of. So we now have the first thing is, you don't even have a collector, a licensed collector. You don't have a licensed recycler in Nigeria today that we can talk about. One is in the process, but so we are having now, if you look at the cost, I'm a banker, Okay, you look at the storage cost of those items, they shouldn't be there. We don't even know now what the health hazards are of living there, and people are making contact with them. So these are the issues we're worried about in those kind of things. That, the earlier we kickstart this thing, look, when you talk about this environmental thing, we need to be running 150 kilometers per hour, not 10 kilometers, okay? So we need to fast track it.
Currently, many remove the valuable metals from equipment and send the remaining scrap to landfills or incinerators. Without adequate protections, workers dismantling discarded electronic equipment are exposed to many chemicals and their negative health effects. From global debate, e-waste has been identified as a problem, adding that it was not only a problem from the health perspective, but also from the ethical point of view. In the European Union, there are legal regulations on the handling of e-waste, and that on account of this, most companies and agencies that want to avoid the cost of disposing them devise other means of dumping them. These e-wastes are either sold as second-hand goods, tested and non-tested, or donated to institutions in the country.